So a quick introduction about myself. I'm Veena Ramagopalan. You can call me Veena in short. I have around 25 plus years of experience, very versatile in nature. I would say have a very long stint in corporate. And then prior to that, I was in the Navy. I'm from the first batch of women officers in the Indian Navy. And then, of course, the corporate bug bit me as well. And that's how I landed up in corporate. My last job was with Philips, where I was handling the global management for the quality. So I was heading the quality for global IT delivery. And now this is my third innings. So I'm the coach, mentor, co-founder of Inroads Leadership Development. So I'm not a seasoned HR. So a lot of people think since I'm into leadership development, my background is HR. So I'm not a seasoned HR. So it was more in terms of my passion, connecting the dots in terms of where I, in my entire journey of 25 plus, I always enjoyed connecting with people, sharing my experience, and also challenging their limiting beliefs, taking, and also from my own experience of handling large teams. And the other aspect, which I've also seen in terms of, growing up or, seeing success, of course, the tangibles, the functional knowledge. And in fact, I tell the same thing to students and children as well, right? Of course, the functional, you mastering your maths, physics, and all that is, of course, important. But the intangibles actually make a lot of difference in your life, right? When I say those intangibles are what actually makes a difference in terms of where you reach in your life. So this is, and the other passion is, of course, in terms of connecting with women and really grooming women professionals. And so we do a lot of women leadership program as part of our company as well. And this, again, the reason is related to my own journey, where I've realized that when I was sitting at the table, I barely saw very few women when I was, growing up in my corporate ladder. So, so I always loved, seeing another, women at the table. So this is where I feel that if I could do it, where I could manage and balance both, my personal and the professional. So I'm married. I have two grown-up children. In fact, my elder one has already started working, and my younger one is in the university in the second year, right? So with that brief introduction about myself, let's get started with this topic. So let me quickly share my screen, and I hope I have that permission. One second. So can you see my screen, please?
Yes.
Okay. So the topic for today is secrets to achieve your goals. When Brinda spoke to me about this topic, so I was also, trying to gather my thoughts in terms of what should I really share. And so I was just going through my own journey and my own, a few success stories, small, big, and really looking at, what really helped me. So it's more about probably, some of, the tips which has worked for me is what I'm going to put it across to you. So, and in my view, when I was even reflecting, it's a lot about in your own mind, which also becomes a block. So that's where, this picture also, how do you really unlock that aspect, right? And those are the aspects which we're really going to share in today's session, right? So most of the time, if I ask you a question, to all of you, you can probably put that in the chat as well. And Anand, maybe you can help me with the response which is coming. So how many of us really feel, even the smaller goals, when we decide, even it could be as small as, probably the New Year resolutions which we make. And sometimes, we just give up, right? And it also feels like, you're climbing a big mountain, like I'm going through, where I have put a challenge for myself in terms of where I'm going through this 100-day challenge for, being healthy. And, there are some, one of my mentor is guiding me through that. And it is actually, like a climbing a mountain for me, right? Because you have to unlearn, you have to do a lot of things which you've been used to doing. And so my question to all of you is, how many of you feel this way? That, it's like, even the smallest goal sometimes feel like climbing a mountain for you. So maybe Anand, you can just quickly tell me what responses are coming.
People are saying yes. So here you can respond in the chat. There are responses that say yes.
So
Say,
I guess,
and
so I think we all of us feel the same, right? It does feel, even it's as small as possible, you know, sometimes it's not for the bigger goals. A lot of people think it's only for the bigger goals. You need to have that, willpower and all of that but it's not just the bigger ones. Even the smallest of the goals which you put in your life, sometimes, you know, you get so frustrated and you start giving up, right? So I will start actually with a story. I always, you know, love to share stories. So I'm sure, you know, you all being, teachers, and you would also be doing the same thing, right? So let me, do this today. So I'm sure you would have heard the story, which is a stonecutter story, where there's a traveler who is, traveling, and then he notices, there are two or three, or probably more stone cutters who are cutting stones. And he's really curious to know what are they doing, because he's so engrossed in terms of, you know, what they're doing. So out of curiosity, he goes and asks one of the stone cutter and asks, what are you doing? So what do you think the first one would have said? So maybe you can put your response and, you know, tell me there. What do you think he would have said? He or she would have said. So let me be gender agnostics here in terms of the question.
again, the answers can be, yeah, somebody says, thought they're just cutting stone.
Correct. Yeah. So most of the people, you know, would say that, you know, yeah. So when they went, exactly, it's the same response he heard, you know, the traveler heard. Then he was obviously not very happy with that response. Then he goes and asks another stone cutter and asks, what are you doing? And there probably it was slightly different, you know, like a typical, you know, in the IT world, or, you know, the engineers where, because you are, you are so logical and rational in your mind. So he said, you know, I'm cutting a stone of this dimension and so thing, and this is what I'm doing. And this guy was still not happy with the response. Then he sees another stone cutter who's sitting, somewhere, and he looked very, very happy, you know, in terms of what he's doing. And then he's really curious to know, like, you know, there are everyone who's around him cutting stones, and they're giving the response that I'm cutting stone or I'm cutting of this dimension. But this guy is like, it's not, even the body language is reflecting something else. So he goes and asks, what are you doing? And what do you think this guy would have responded? So what is the response, Anand?
Yeah, somebody is saying masterpiece in making, shaping the destiny,
Okay. Masterpiece shaping the destiny. Okay. Anybody else?
helping to build a nation.
Helping to build a nation. Excellent. Okay. So I think you're all pretty close. So this guy actually said, I'm building a castle, right? Or a cathedral, right? And so the question to most of us, you know, to all of us, you know, we all get into the jobs. In fact, this is one of my favorite story. You know, I say we all, you know, get into jobs, and the difference between the third stone cutter and the rest of the stone cutters were, he did not see the cutting of the stone as just, you know, cutting stones or carving a rock. He saw beyond that, and that is what inspired him. That is what made him very happy, right? So it was about, so what exactly did he see? What set him different in terms of the other stone cutters? So obviously, uh, it is not that he knew just how to cut, because we all of us are qualified when we enter, right, our jobs, or, you know, whatever we're trying to do. It's not about that how and the what part. It's about knowing that why, as to why are you really cutting the stone, right? Why are you doing this job? Why do you want to do this? So that's very, very important. And viewing the big picture, you know, so that's the whole and not just the parts, because he realized even this particular rock which I'm cutting is going to go into that, you know, the big cathedral which I'm trying to build. And hence it's important for me to enjoy that process, enjoy that journey, right? And it's seeing that vision or the big sense of big picture. So, and at the end of it, he also has realized that he's going to leave a legacy or an impact in terms of whatever you're doing. So my question, so for me, the first secret I would say is, is actually, do we all have a sense of big picture? picture in what we do. So we all set goals, right? It could be small or big. Unless and until you, suppose you say that, if one of my goal is that I have to cut down, say, sweets or something like that. And if I just put that as a goal, and what do you think would be, how do you think that I'll be successful in terms of achieving that? Obviously, I'm going to break this very soon, probably a week later, when my son is eating an ice cream. I would also be love to, indulge in that. So the question is, are we connecting that with your why? Knowing your why as to why do you want to stop that, or why do you want to do this? And unless and until you do that, and so it's important to know your why. So whenever you set goals for yourself, big or small, at least what's worked for me is asking that question: why is this important for me? Right? Why is it important? And so that why is a very, very powerful word, actually. And have a strong why. When I say have a strong why, what does it mean? It needs to be compelling, inspiring, and connecting with your emotions. Unless and until you connect that with your emotions, believe me, that goal will fail, right? And so you need to connect that with your emotions, and only then, you will really take, baby steps and move forward towards that goal. So then the question is, what can really impact, your success or failure in terms of achieving that? So again, here, I'll go with this picture. So there's a baby, and have you ever seen this picture? And have you ever noticed a child, standing in front of this, the big stairs? And does the baby really think, should I or should I not? Do you think that baby is going to do that? So what's the response, Anand?
Mixed responses. There are some yes and there are some no's.
Okay. If you ask me, most of us, if you're a parent, you would have seen, your child going through this. The baby is not even bothered how big the stairs are. The moment they see that, they just going to go all out and climb the stairs, right? So they don't even have that thing, that should I or should I not? And they just start climbing. So whereas, so let me build this up, right? And what happens? So you might be wondering, what am I trying to do in this topic, right? I'm showing all baby pictures here, right? So what is this baby? What does it indicate? Obviously, this baby is indicating, the curiosity, the curiousness, and ready to explore, ready to experiment. Moment something is there in front of them, they want to explore, experiment, and learn new stuff, challenge themselves, and take risks. They know, I mean, they don't even think that, it's only probably the parents who will say no, to the child at the moment the baby starts climbing, right? Because they feel that, the child is taking a risk, but whereas the child is not even thinking about that, taking that risk and the challenge. And the same, so we were also babies some time ago, right? All of us were, right? So, but what happened to the same babies few years later, in schools? This is what happens, right? And it becomes so tough for teachers to really engage them and connect them. And it doesn't end there. When they go to college, it becomes even more worse, probably, right? And it doesn't end there as well. And when they go to probably, the corporates or the companies, this is what happens, right? So what exactly is happening? So we all had so much of curiosity, willing to take risk, willing to take challenge, explore newer stuff, and not even thinking twice before something is there in front. And what's happening? So in fact, there's a very interesting study which was done on this, and this is where I would like to bring this. And since you're all teachers, I thought, let me also share this wonderful book with you, which will probably help you. It is on the mindset, how we can learn to fulfill our potential. It is by Carol Dweck, very famous psychologist of Harvard. And so as per this research, the way we approach things, as we start growing up, is in two ways. Either you are approaching in fixed mindset way, or you approach in a growth mindset. So because of paucity of time, so if any of you are interested, you can actually do a survey. You can just Google it around and you'll get a survey in terms of what mindset do you have. So most of us, it's not that all of us are growth mindset or fixed mindset. It's not Boolean, it's not binary. It's in fact, in certain cases, I might be very, very fixed. In certain cases, I might be, growth. But what's important is, let's really understand, what is mindset. I'm sure all of you know, it's a set of belief or a way we think that determines one's behavior or the outlook, right? Now, what's the difference between a fixed, so as per Carol Dweck, what she says is that the way we approach things, there is a difference between two people is because the way we, it's either you're approaching through fixed mindset of yours or you're approaching through growth mindset of yours. So a lot of us think, when some of us say, suppose you're not, I'm sure you would have heard in your own childhood or in school, or, where there's that innate fear of maths, right? So a lot of kids say, oh, I don't like maths, I hate maths, or I fear maths. Moment you have a lot of large calculations, you just, I don't like numbers. And that's because probably you're thinking that, these are all static in nature, and unless and until you have the genes, or you have that, the potential by birth, is where you can actually crack maths, right? So this is the mindset with which we approach sometimes. But actually, if you approach the same thing, you in a different way, it's like, your intelligence, personality, and character can be continuously developed. The way you see things would be very different, right? Similarly, there are people who have the innate desire to always look smart. Hence, what happens is, even though there is, so you don't take risk, you don't take challenge, or you're scared of, failing. The reason being because you know that if you fail or you take a challenge, you will not look smart, right, in front of others. So hence, you don't even take challenge, you don't take risk, and you're happy being where you are, right? And so whereas the growth mindset person, if there's something in front of them, they have that innate desire to learn. So that's what makes the difference, right? And of course, a fixed mindset person, they dread failure, as I had already mentioned, whereas they don't fear. The growth mindset person don't dread failure. These people probably avoid challenges, and here they embrace challenges. And here you're believing that the success only comes based on innate ability, whereas the growth mindset person believes that you can achieve success in anything, small or big, by doing hard work, training, and learning. So the way we approach a problem, or I would say the way we approach a thing, is actually making so much of difference in terms of how successful we can be in terms of achieving that. And that is a very, very powerful aspect which is there in our mind. And can we change it? So a lot of people ask me this question when I do this, these on mindset workshop. Can we really change? Actually, you can. Yeah, you can change your mindset. Yeah, and so we will, of course, during our course of our, the topic itself, we will touch on some of the aspects. But yes, you can change, but yeah, there are a lot of things you may not like to change. You might be like to be fixed. That's okay. So it's not that binary, as I said. So don't think that, fixed and growth is binary and growth is always good or fixed. There are certain times you can be fixed. It's okay, right? But things which really make a difference to you in your life, which will actually create an impact, approach it with a growth mindset. So this belief, which is nothing but a mindset, actually, changes your behavior, and in turn changes your outcome, which can be a success or a failure. So these two mindsets actually lead to very different behavior and an outcome for all of us. And so what I'm trying to say is, the second tip is approach anything, where it makes sense and meaningful, and you want to make it meaningful for you in your life, whether it is professional or personal. Approach it with growth mindset in terms of what I had said, right? So this will enable you to get more closer to your goal. The third is, we all say, we all start, and sometimes, obviously, after some point of time, we give up. And that give up happens because of probably, I was just looking at my own experience. The give up happens sometimes because of the noise which is there in your head. And that noise, I always call it as self-doubt. We all have that self-doubt in our mind, which blocks us from taking that bolder step, right? And the other noise which comes our way is the distractions, right? It is all about, in fact, in today's digital world, there are so many distractions for us. Like while we are doing something, even in a smaller task, there are some distractions. It could be a WhatsApp message, it could be something which is popped up in your email, or it could be something. So, so everything can actually hamper you from achieving, the smallest goal, or, whatever the big goal you're trying to look at. So it's all about, how do you really, get rid of these noise. So one of the tips which I would like to share in terms of self-doubt, which has worked for me, is, focus on the big picture. Don't, of course, there will be self-doubt which will come in your mind, but focus on the big picture and look at why are you doing, and, and what do you want to achieve, and focus on that. And hence then, you will, and take that, power from yourself in terms of even your past successes, and move forward, right? And the second is, when these critical negative thoughts come into your mind, you obviously, it will come. It's not that it doesn't come. For all of us, it comes, when we have to do something, or very different from what we have done in the past in terms of the goals, it does come. So reframe those self-critical thoughts in your mind, and surround yourself. In fact, this is very, very important. I always say, surround yourself with people who say you can. So, I would give my own example, where a few years back, I had a very severe sleeping problem. And then that's when, I enrolled myself in yoga and meditation. And so, of course, when I went there, and my son was actually my buddy, to help me out in achieving that goal. And when I started doing that, and obviously, probably where I've never done so many Surya Namaskar, and it was very difficult for me to do initially. And my son was the one who used to always, when I used to go, he said, "Mama, yes, you're doing it. You can do it." Whereas when I used to go to my husband, who's a very good runner, and so for him, it's like every day he runs around probably 10 kilometers. And when I go and tell him, today I did 5 sets of Surya Namaskar, he said, "What, 5 sets? What is this?" So, so it's very important, whom do you actually approach when you are really having, this kind of a self-doubt. So go to a person who will actually pat your back, even if it is a smaller achievement you've had towards your goal. So this, I thought, I'll share as an example. Now, I don't know if you've, there's another book. So I love reading books. So I thought, let me share some of the, books. And since you're all also teachers, so this is another book on outliers, which is by Malcolm Gladwell. I don't know if any of you have read it. I'm sure many of you would have done it. Here, this person talks about, the 10,000 hours. I don't know if you have read this. If you haven't read this book, please go and read it. Right? Anything what you want to do. And in fact, in this book, he talks about, a musician where the person learns. It's anything you can learn in your life by just putting that 10,000 hours. And I'm serious, actually. And so effort is actually key. So if you really want to make a change and move towards your larger goal, you need to put your time and energy, and you need to put your effort there, right? So effort is actually, so that's the 4th tip, I would say. Effort is actually key, right? And the next is, we have setbacks. Whenever we have, we're moving towards a goal, we do have setbacks in various forms. How do you really learn from your failures? And this is another powerful thing, which when I read this book on mindset by Carol Dweck. I don't know if you have, if you haven't read, again, I would urge you all to read that book. See, most of the time when we see failure, or when we hit failure, what comes to our mind? We say, "I can't do it," right? Or even if you ask a child, when they say, when they fail, this is not my cup of tea. I can't do it. This is what happens. But there is a powerful word which you can actually add to this. And that completely changes the way your mind will start working. So whenever such failure happens, say, "I can't do it yet." Just try saying that in your mind. I can't do it yet. What what does this word give you? Can somebody write it in the on the chat? Anand?
Yes, you're still waiting for responses. Hope opens up
X.
options.
Exactly. So moment you tell your mind, most of the time what we tell our mind is, I can't do it, right? This is not my cup of tea. Whereas if you start saying, I can't do it, I mean, I would really urge you all, even if you're parents, when you're, I'm sure, you know, your kids do have setbacks. And as a parent, in fact, this book is very important when, if at all you're a parent, right? And you just say that to your child, you know, okay, fine, you can't do it yet. So that means you're giving that person a hope, options that, don't worry, there is still hope for you to achieve in terms of what you have set up. And it's very, very powerful. So when you look at failures, it's also, it all depends on how do you really view that. And a lot of times it's also the perseverance in which helps you in terms of overcoming, you know, that setback. And again, going back to the same thing, focus on your big picture. Don't look at, a lot of times, you know, we take a path. So when I do coaching and mentoring, so a lot of people say, you know, I've set this goal, I take this path and I've failed. When I say it's okay, you've taken this, traverse this path and you've failed. But don't look at that path. Maybe the path one, the plan A didn't work, right? But look at, keep that the big goal or the goal what you have put for yourself. Don't change that, right? Then look at plan B. Yeah, maybe the plan B would work or plan C would work. So it's always important to focus on your big picture, that why, the purpose, and not so much on the, you know, the how part. So it's like, suppose I'm an entrepreneur and I have a goal to, you know, to have this, you know, probably I want to make so much of revenue, probably by end of this year. We all make that, right? Financial plans. So we make that, and then, you know, maybe, you know, one of the project which I did maybe did not succeed, but that doesn't mean that I will not succeed in my, but if I keep that big picture in mind and learn from that failure, what has happened in this project, and still maybe, you know, carve a new path, and maybe plan B, plan C, and have that big picture always in mind. So for me, the number 5 is learning from your failures, and how do you really view failures, and adding that word, powerful word, which is yet, whenever it comes to your mind that I can't do it, right? The 6th one, very obvious one, I'm sure it might sound a bit cliche as well, right? Where we probably tell as teachers as well, push yourself out of your comfort zone, right? And it's easier said than, you know, actually, I'm sure for us also as adults, it's not so easy sometimes, because when you've not done, how do you push yourself? And what is actually comfort zone, right? We all have the natural tendency to slip into the zone of performance and be where we are comfortable. So let me do a small exercise. Wherever you're sitting, just do that. Fold your hands and, you know, try to basically look at where is your right hand and where is your left hand when you're folding. So, I mean, I don't know if you're able to see my video. So this is what I'm doing. So Anand, are you able to see what I'm doing?
Yes, not your
Yeah.
arms
So just,
completely. If you can raise it
okay,
a
so
little above.
basically I'm
Yes.
just, you know, like we do this, right? So normally we fold our hands like this. So just try doing that. And now I'm going to ask you, just change your hand positions. Okay, just change your hand positions. Try doing that. Change your hand positions. What happened? How many of us actually came back to our old position, which we are comfortable after some time? Anant.
Ah, there are responses. I did.
Exactly. So such a small change which we are trying to bring in ourselves, and we come back to our old comfort self, right? Which is just, you know, it's like, you know, so you can just imagine, you know, so we all love our comfort. None of us want to give up our comfort, right? What we are used to. So So basically, we all stop striving, and day by day, we develop habits that lead to underachievement and failure. So this is what happens, right? We all give up because we come back to our because that comfort feels so comfortable that we don't want to go out of that, right? Um, so we settle for far less than we truly capable of. This is what happens, right? So I don't know if so comfort zone. So when you're in a comfort zone, how did it feel when you went back to your old hand position? You felt very secure and safe, easy, comfortable. And this is what happens. You feel that you're stable, there's no threats for you. And believe me, after some point of time, it starts getting boring, unchallenging, and sometimes it becomes lifeless as well, right? And there is another zone called panic zone. Just imagine if none of you have ever done, I don't know how many of you are marathon runners. Suppose I say, tomorrow, you're all going to do a half marathon, right? Uh, and how does it feel where someone has never done? How does it feel? I said, no, come what may. All volunteers, we all need to be healthy, right? And let's all do a half marathon tomorrow. So how does it feel? What have I done actually right now?
Panic attack.
Exactly. So I have put you all in panic zone, right? So that's where you start feeling, oh my God, I need to do, you get tense, you get stressed, you get anxious, frustrated, and exhausted. But there's another zone which we can actually play around with, which is nothing but a stretch zone, right? And that's where I call it actually a learning zone. That's where you challenge yourself and you're willing to take risk, uh, and excited. And that is where you learn and grow. So, and what is a stretch zone? So that means if I had said the same thing in a different way, I said, okay, guys, you know what? Let's all start running tomorrow. And let's start with 1 kilometer tomorrow. Or probably not even run. I'll say, okay, let's start walking a kilometer tomorrow. How does it feel? How many of you people will be willing to do that? Anand?
Yes. So some say they will be excited.
Exactly. Yeah, so this is what happened because I have put yourself not in panic at the moment. I put you in stretch. I'm making you learn. And I put a baby step towards your end goal. So maybe if I say, then slowly, maybe the first week I would make you people do, if I'm your coach, I might say, start with 1 kilometer and then slowly I will build it up. And believe me, you will start maybe in 6 months down the line, you might run the marathon, yeah, itself. Yeah, so this is what happens to our goal. So you need to look at how do you really put yourself in stretch. It could be smaller to begin with. So to take an example, so in fact, this happened to me as well. In fact, I was of the world when I left corporate world and I started my own company, and I realized the biggest skill which I have lost out being in is the networking. And I never realized the power of networking, right? And it was actually not easy for me to do it because I was so comfortable in my own world. And so yes, I pushed myself. You start rationalizing it. Networking. Why networking? Why should you be in social media? Why should you be visible? It's not so important. And I don't need to really market myself. I don't believe in that, right? And I don't want to show off in terms of what I'm doing. And I'm good at my work. So why should I network? So this is how you will rationalize, yourself. And the real reason is, why am I rationalizing? Because I'm in a panic zone. Yeah. Because that's where I'm rationalizing my mind. So it's so much actually playing in my mind. And that is what you need to unlock. Right. And we all rationalize away our discomfort. So whenever we put in discomfort, when we are trying to go closer to the goal, we start rationalizing it. And so basically, this is what happens. So what my urge to all of you is, instead of rationalizing, take baby steps, which is going into a stretch zone so that you get closer to your goal. And it's all about coming out of your comfort zone. And slowly you'll realize what was in the panic, when I said about, even the marathon or, half marathon, what was actually in panic, in 6 months time, you'll realize it'll come in comfort And you yourself will come back and tell me in 6 months, Veena, can we do in next 6 months, can we, put a goal for running a marathon, full marathon? That's what would happen. So same thing, even for me in networking, where I used to hate it probably, I've started enjoying it, right? So this is what is a process, what would happen. So the seventh one is on building positive rituals, right? It's a very, 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 very powerful actually. And I'm sure you all have, read this quote, right? We are what we repeatedly do. And excellence then is not an act, but a habit. Unless and until you do certain things repeatedly and make it a habit of yours, is where it's going to happen, right? So what are rituals? Many people ask me this question. So how many of us, if I ask you this question, brushed your teeth, today? All of us did? Yes, I'm sure all of us would have done it, right? And if I ask
Yes.
you the next question, how many of us really, when we are tying our shoelaces, we actually see and tie? We just do it on our own, right? We don't even look at, we know, or even probably if we are a very seasoned driver and car driver, you are driving your car, you don't even look at, while you're changing your gears, you don't even look at whether you're putting in first gear or second gear, because it happens all automatic, correct? But assuming you're not someone who's never hit a gym, and I ask you, right now, every day in the morning, 5 o'clock, we all need to be in the gym, right? you know, Probably you all will get yourself the gears, make sure that you get the best of the shoes you'll order from Amazon and get it for you to motivate yourself to go to the gym every day, and, probably have all the, stuff that you need for, going to gym. You might do for probably 2 days, 3 days, maybe a week. Great. But after some point of time, you'll come with some, what, it's lockdown, and, my maid is not there, and, or it is probably raining today, or, I had a very late night yesterday, and this is how it builds up. And then after some point of time, probably your spouse might say, you have paid up for this gym, so you better, at least go. So it's because of that guilt, you might go there again following week. Then it doesn't stop there. As again, you will stop after some time, and then you'll call the gym and say, this subscription which I paid, can I, take it for the next year, or, in the next 6 months, because, I'm a bit busy this 6 months. And then you'll realize after 6 months, it's not that you're going to go, and then you'll come with another fantastic excuse where you will not do this. So what's happening is, the first two examples, which is brushing and the tying your shoelaces, all these behaviors have become automatic. Hence, you are not putting your energy, and you go with the flow. Whereas this gym, which you have never done, it's a new goal for you. And and you're putting so much of energy, and hence you start resisting it in every opportunity which comes your way. So how do you make it positive that, you really hit the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning? So make it very, very specific. In fact, when I say specific, any goal you want to start, small or big, make it very specific and make it as much as possible smart, where you are really able to measure as to how do you know that you've achieved it. And when I say specific, also do it at a specific time, right? When somebody says, I love reading books, I've stopped reading books for so many. So I always say, put a time, when you would do it. And believe me, the success rate of you achieving that would be much higher moment you make it specific. The second is, have it do it at a very, very precise time, and drive it with a purpose. When I say drive it with a purpose, it's the same thing. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to go to a gym? So if the larger purpose is that you want to stay healthy, or you want to shed some weight, or whatever it could be, connect it with the larger purpose, right? And make, after some point of time, it should become automatic, like the way every day when you get up from the bed, you automatically go and brush, right? Or it's like tying shoelace, it's automatically done, right? So you need to make it as much as possible automatic. And when will that happen? It is initial days, you have to put a lot of will and discipline, right? But after some point of time, it becomes automatic, and that's where you need to go back to your perseverance, you need to go back to your effort, all of it. So initially you need to put a lot of discipline and a lot of, conscious will. But believe me, that conscious will and discipline can only be put for some time, right? And you need to put that in a consistent way. And if that happens, then you won the battle. And you actually, after that, it becomes automatic, right? And so more you make all these changes which you want in your life, the more you make it automatic, it's the less energy you use. And that's where it's like, you get up in the morning every day and you brush. The same thing would happen. You will get up in the morning and you'll hit the gym at 5 o'clock, right? This is what would happen. So how do you really build? It's again going back to the same comfort zone thing. Don't, if you have never ever walked, never ever done gym, go for maybe 15. In fact, I tell people, when I'm coaching and mentoring, I say, just go, and probably don't do anything also. Don't do anything. Just watch. Maybe just go and get familiar with the gym and come back. Don't do anything, right? But start small, plan incremental changes. And it all starts, guys. Anything you want to achieve, you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone, right? And the third is create that supporting environment, like which I told you, like my son, who was giving me that pat at the back when I even achieved smaller, maybe did 5 sets of Surya Namaskar. He said, wow, you've done doing great. Create that support, create a buddy who will help you out with this, and reward yourself. And I said reward needn't be reward. It can also be someone who's giving you a positive response, or say to yourself, oh, wow, I've done, and write it down. Oh, I've done this. I have achieved this. Probably I did 3 kilometers. So that's why you have nowadays all this app industry. There's so many of them, coming up to really monitor. And because people say, when you write it down, the success rate of you achieving that becomes even more, right? And the other thing which has worked for me is, a lot of times, we tend to say, if I say, for example, I have health goals, health related goals, and I've said, I don't want to eat sweets from tomorrow. That's not going to happen, right? Or I had this problem of, meals, where that used to be my distraction. That used to be my noise in terms of really achieving my goals. And instead of saying, I will stop checking my email so often, say, I will check my email at 3 specific times. So every day I do it in the morning and probably post lunch, where my, my energy also drops a bit. And maybe, just before going. So you're basically making it very specific time. Not that I'm eliminating completely that I'll stop checking mails. That's not going to happen. Yeah. Or in the weekend, you don't want to do check mail. You don't want to be swarmed by mails, and then you need to make it specific if that is how you want to change and make it into a positive. So the message here is focus on doing rather than not doing. So in terms of the, what do you call, the secret is building the positive ritual, how, and I've explained to you, how to build. The eighth one is, a lot of times because of our mind, we start thinking, and I always say we get into analysis and paralysis mode. So there I would say focus on action. Don't, focus on your thinking. So it's all about focusing on your action rather than thinking. So it's all about doing. Unless until you do, it's okay when if you fail, but do it, do something, I mean, move at least one step, baby step towards your goal. And these are, some of the secrets which I thought I'll share in this time, in terms of what has probably worked for me. And of course, lastly, I would say is the ninth one, which is enjoying this whole process, guys. So moment you start perceiving your goal, like I showed you the first picture, as climbing the mountain, it will sound very strenuous in your mind, right? And it will, moment you say, oh my God, I have to, so the moment you put it that way, oh, I have to, I cannot eat sweets. Oh, I have to hit a gym. So you yourself are putting in your mind as though you're climbing a mountain. Instead, enjoy the process. So focus more on, oh, wow, by doing this is, and use all the tips which I have shared, and enjoy the journey and enjoy the process. And believe me, smaller or big, you would hit success. Yeah. So this is what I had to share. And let's throw open for questions, Anand. And these are my 2 cents, by the way. I'm not saying I have perfected the art, but I just thought, I'll share in terms, I'm still struggling with few things. I'm being very, very honest. There are few goals where even I'm having my own share of struggles. Yeah, but these are, I go back to these secrets to overcome, those struggles.
Thank you. Thank you for listing them out and all the positive words. There are some questions I'll read them out one by one.
Yeah, I'll stop share right now.
Yes. Yes. So the first person chose to remain anonymous and has asked, "Hi Veena, why do you recommend/emphasize that all our goals should be linked to an emotion?"
Okay. Very good question, I would say. So why I said that.
There is a little scramble in the voice.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you with a little disturbance. Can you just mute once and then unmute quickly?
Okay. Yep. So was it only right now or was it all through?
No, just now. It has just begun after.
So how is it right now?
It is still a bit scrambled. Do anyone else also feel it? Can you please confirm in the chat? Is it, if the voice is clear? Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes. Yes is.
So voice is clear.
It isn't clear. It isn't clear. The voice is not clear.
Okay. Now?
No, there is a scramble.
Should I unmute my video and check?
Yes, please, we can try that.
Now?
It is still there. It is still there.
Oh God, what do we do now?
Okay, just in 5-6 seconds, can you rejoin?
You want me to rejoin?
Yes, yes.
Let me do that. Does that help?
Yes, let's try. I hope things get reset by then.
Okay. I will just rejoin.
Yes. In the meantime, you can send your questions in this Q&A chat, all the participants. Yes, you're muted.
Now?
Yes, crystal clear.
Okay. So this is strange. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Tell me. What was the question?
Yeah. So why do you recommend or emphasize that all our goals should be linked to an emotion?
Okay. So why I said that is because that is what is going to make it more inspiring, for you, because we are all emotional human beings. And unless and until you link it to your emotions, where it connects deeper with you, believe me, that inspiration, or it doesn't become so compelling for you to really go ahead with that. So that was the reason I said, link it as much as possible, to your emotion. Don't make it very moment you make it very rational, and see, we're all emotional people at the end of the day, right? And if you have to make it, you have to connect it with yourself. Why do you want this? And don't stop it with, in fact, I say, how do you connect that with emotion? One of the tool which I use is, why is it important for me? Yeah. Ask that why, and ask, and if still you feel it's still not inspiring, it still doesn't give you that wow, ask again, why is it important for me? Why do I want to do this? Keep asking that why till you reach as to why it connects with you. Or sometimes when you do this why exercise, you may have to slightly tweak your goal. Maybe that goal itself has to be tweaked to make it inspiring for you.
Thank you. The next one is, why don't people why don't they question or not come out of their comfort zone? Is it lack of motivation or fear of failure, or what is it? Why is it people don't come out of it?
So I think pretty much you've answered itself. So you're right. So I won't, because comfort zone is very comfortable for all of us. As I rightly, as I was mentioning to you, like with the small exercise which we try to do, it's so comfortable. And believe me, you are not alone. We are all of us not. 95% of the population are all in comfort zone, right? It's those 5% who actually push themselves so hard to be there, and that's why they're so successful, right? So most of us struggle with this, so it's not that you're not alone, right? And so how do you push yourself out of comfort zone is where the tip I said, right? How do you motivate yourself to reach come out of that comfort zone is by giving smaller baby steps to move towards that goal which you have achieved. That's one of the key trick there. The second one is, how do you really approach, with that problem or the goal? Approach it with more of a growth mindset. What will happen even if you fail? Right? Like you rightly said, is it fear of failure? Yes, it could be fear of failure. Yeah. So what will happen if you fail? Nothing will, happen. Like a lot of us don't. I remember in corporate world, when I used to handle large teams, some of us, when I ask a question, they won't raise a hand, or even if they, let's take this example of you being teachers itself. How many students raise hands and ask questions? A lot of times, the students only raise hands if they know the answer. Correct? Why? Because they want to look smart in front of their teachers and their peers, right? And how many actually ask questions, and even if it is stupid question? And how are we as teachers encouraging that? Because that is actually growth mindset. Because if you are raising your hand, and because you don't fear that failure aspect of it, even though it might be stupid, is basically that growth mindset. So how do you really approach, coming out of comfort zone with growth mindset also is another tip.
Thank you. There are a few questions. I'll just pick and choose considering
Sure, sure,
the
sure, sure.
paucity of time. There is one that asks, "Ma'am, tell us a list of books worth reading."
So I think I have listed a lot of books actually right now for you, right? So one is on the mindsets. Definitely you need to pick up that Carol Dweck's book. It's a very, very fantastic book, especially if you're a teacher and especially if you're a parent, right? In fact, after reading this book, I felt that in my own parenting, I could have done some things which could have been done better, right? As a parent, we always feel that, probably we're not doing right so many things, right? So I felt that, we can, so that's one of the book. And the second one, which also I spoke about, was The Outlier, right? So these two books really, I would recommend at this point of time.
Thank you. So there is one, how to guide students to reach goals at their age.
How to guide. So for me, actually, there is a lot to do with the teacher also, right? How do you really approach students? So many times, they see, for students, they see teachers as guru, and for them, they need to be so inspiring, right? And if you take, and even so taking an example here would be, are you a teacher who's always bound by textbooks, right? Or do you push yourself out of the comfort zone of going beyond textbooks? So if you do that, believe me, your children will also do it. Yeah, your students would also do it. And the second is, how do you set question papers? In fact, I always say, as a teacher, it is so speaks about, that growth mindset part. So if you're a growth mindset teacher and you want to really challenge, right, you will not set questions where a lot of times we teach, the students so that, they pass our exams, right? Whereas, okay, you need to have a mix so that the students are motivated, because that's what you're trying to feed the children right from the beginning, right? You have to challenge your children also in thinking. And many times I feel that in our system today, we have made them not to think at all. We're so syllabus oriented, so curriculum oriented, that they have stopped thinking, and that's why they don't enjoy this process, right? And most of it, what you have already you want to teach, is available in the textbook. Enough and more material is available in the net. They can learn. But what you need to, probably whenever you get a chance to interact with your children, you use that opportunity to challenge them and talk something beyond what's there in the textbook. And that's how probably you can motivate, I would say.
Thank you. So next, there is a question, how to develop assertive behavior to achieve goals.
How to develop assertive behavior. It's again related to, the aspect of, you need to really, sometimes you have to put your foot down, we say, right? You have to put your foot down. And if you really want to do something, you need to believe in that. Self-belief is very, very important, that come what may, even if I fail, I know I'm going to move towards that goal. So that self-belief actually plays a lot in terms of showing assertion towards your goal as well, right? And again, back to the same thing, push yourself, push yourself, perseverance, consistency, effort, all of these are very, very important to be assertive towards that.
So there are two questions. I'll club them. One says, how can we motivate ourselves in this pandemic? And the other is a general question asking, who needs coaching? What kind of people and what?
Okay, so I like this question actually. How can we help ourselves in this pandemic? Yes, this pandemic is putting a lot of questions in our mind, right? And sometimes that fear and all of it. So the way I can probably share my own experience, right? First thing first, I came from a philosophy that because of, especially the business where I am, I always believe I came from that old school of thought that I can connect with people only if I meet them face to face, right? And I can do this kind of workshops, coaching, mentoring, everything only when I'm meeting face to face. And that's where the connect happens. But I had to completely do that paradigm shift. And believe me, I've started enjoying this. And I've realized I have that, there were a lot of business deals which I had discounted, saying that online I don't work, right? In the previous world. But today I have challenged myself and I've out of my comfort zone where I've started enjoying this process of doing everything online. So it's about how do you, in this pandemic world, it has actually made all of us push out of comfort zone, right? We were so used to doing certain things in a certain way, and it has pushed us, all of us, right? So that's number one. How many of us, in fact, in the corporate world would have, easily said all of, 100% of your employees work from home? No one would have said. I still remember when women in the organizations used to, they say, oh, flexi, they need flexi hours, this, that, and all that. But now the same bosses, same managers are saying, oh, it's possible. Your team can be productive. Yeah. So it has made, I would say, to unlearn so many things, question so many mindsets which I had in my own mind, has actually made me question that, it is possible. Like, we are able to manage things without me. Now I've realized, oh yes, you can. Even if my house is not swept for 2 days, it's looking clean only. There's nothing wrong with it, right? So it's more in our mind, I would say. And coming back to the fears which is we are surrounded by, I'm not saying completely don't look at it, but I have stopped looking at, those where, the numbers are increasing in Bangalore and all of it and all of that. Only thing is, don't do stupid things where, you're putting your life to risk, right? Um, and just focus more on how you can utilize this time to learn things, challenge yourself, push yourself out of comfort zone. Focus more on that rather than focusing on what's happening, outside. And do that, whatever that, there are so many people are advising so many things, do yoga, do pranayam, do all of it, which makes your immune system better. Do that. And yeah, if something happens, you have to face it, right? And then hopefully, not all of us will be safe, right? Nothing. And so don't do stupid things also. So, so focus more on, the positive aspects, the learning, challenging yourself, pushing yourself outside, and think it's all normal. This probably is going to become the new norm for us.
That's very
Yes.
nice. And there was a follow-up question that asked, who needs coaching? Like what is the
Okay.
need?
So the coaching aspect is every one of us need coaching. Every one of us need mentoring. A lot of us think that, I have reached the perfect world, I don't need anything. No, all of us have limiting beliefs, blockers in us, which does not let us achieve full potential. And believe me, even I was of the same belief. But when I had a coach and a mentor, and I still have, and that helps you to motivate yourself, it helps you to push you out of the comfort zone, challenge you yourself more. And I would say every one of us need, because we all have limiting beliefs, we all have blockers in ourselves which is blocking us from reaching full potential.
Thank you. So we'll have one last question before we wrap up. So how do we deal with fear? Like how do we use it to our advantage? All of us feel fear. All of us feel we are on the verge of failing or things are not working. So how do we use that to our advantage?
So I would say, you see it as an opportunity rather than, focusing on that, focus on the positive aspect, see it as an opportunity. So when this whole pandemic came, in fact, many of them, including myself, I would say initially I thought, okay, well, my God, how am I going to run my business, right? Everything is all, because the world where I was working is not there right now. And, but believe me, I'm become more busier than what I was, right? The reason is because I started focusing, I started challenging myself the whole, and then I started getting newer ideas of doing things. I started challenging the ideas which I had in terms of running my business or doing things. And I think that fear, oh my God, everything is all over, you know, is, instead of that, focus on what is it that I need to do differently now in the current world, because this is not going to go away in 10 days, 2 weeks, or 1 month, 2 months. Ask that question, how can I do, the same thing what I want to do, I love doing, in a different way? And believe me, you ask that question some 10 times, you'll get so many beautiful ideas. Write that down and start implementing that one by one, baby steps. And believe me, you will achieve success. There is no doubt about it. And I can tell you, I'm a live example in, where 2 3 months back what it was for me, and now things are uh, very different.
That's very nice to know, ma'am. There are a lot of thank yous coming in. People are saying, like, instead of looking at the numbers, the pandemic numbers, it's good to spend time on webinars like such as this. And then there is somebody says, thank you for such wonderful motivation. There are a lot of thanks pouring out to you. So on behalf of eVidyaloka and all the participants, I thank you very sincerely. This has been an amazing session. The tips that you listed down and the books that you suggested, I'm sure a lot of people have a lot to take away from this. With this, we come to the end of this session. The recording of this webinar will be mailed to the participants. You will have a YouTube link. It will be there in the uh, eVidyaloka YouTube page, YouTube channel, eVidyaloka's YouTube channel, and then you will get a mail which has the link to that YouTube channel. So there are people who say, thank you very much, ma'am. It was a pleasure chatting with you. It's one of the best webinars attended. It was a wonderful session. So thank you very much. Have a good
Thank you so
weekend.
much. Thank you so much. It was really pleasure. You guys are doing wonderful job in eVidyaloka. And believe me, in fact, when I spoke to Brinda, in fact, I said, how can I become a volunteer, right? You guys are doing an immensely a fantastic job. Keep up with the good work. And I would have really loved to spend more time and, make it more interactive. Yeah, unfortunately, because of the constraint which we have over the time and also the setup, we're not. But definitely the world is small. We will meet, and you can stay in touch with me, through LinkedIn, social media, whatever it is. Yep.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.